Welcome to this event in PEN, Norway. I'm very happy that you're here in this terrible weather, that you actually forced your way to come to here to listen to this interesting conversation that's about to start. Just a few words about PEN. PEN stands for Poets, Essayists and Novelists. And the organization was founded about 100 years ago, 100 years and about 2 weeks. So that is why we're having this big festival that we're having now, and we have events almost every day till November 15th. So please check the program, and you're welcome to come back. Tell your friends, bring a friend, and bring the program so you can check when you get home what else you want to take part in. There's a time limit of 1 hour, and so this conversation will last probably 40 minutes, and then we will open for questions if you have any questions. So please, if you think of something on the way, just know that this is a freedom of speech organization, so we will also allow you to speak. And of course, if you're not a member yet, you're welcome to become a member if you are interested in freedom of speech and use your voice to actually make sure that others can use their voice as well. I'm going to give the floor very soon to today's moderator, but first we have a tradition here in PEN that is empty chair. An empty chair is a person who is not able to be here, but who should have been here. And today's empty chair is our honorary member, İrem Çomak. He's a Turkish poet. He's been in jail for 28 years, completely innocent. In the last 7 years, he's been in solitary confinement. And Norwegian PEN, or PEN Norway, is very strongly associated with Turkey because we really work hard to strengthen freedom of expression in Turkey. And he is one. That's why he also an honorary member. And after this conversation, I'm going to give this book to you, but you can't have it yet, because this is his 9th collection of poems. So during those 28 years in jail, what he's been doing is actually writing poets. And I'm going to read just a very few lines about what is not in his life now, what is not in jail in Turkey. There are no turnings of the season, no eclipses of the moon, no earth, no plants in their simple elegance, no cat's paws, no sweat-drenched headlong of a horse, no curtain to breathe to life, no mouldering bunches of grapes. Life separated from the sun. There is no direction here, but there is a way out. There is always a way out. İrem Çomak. With those words, I know there are several ways out, because the journalist or moderator, Anne Hoskål Haugen, is going to take us through the next hour. Anne writes about human rights, economic development, and the world around us, especially about the global south. And she's also teaching journalism at Oslo Met, that is Oslo Metropolitan University?
Yes, it's now a university. It used to be Høyskole, yeah. But Oslo Met University.
It's a terrible name.
I'm not going to comment that.
It doesn't sound. I never remember what it stands for, but we are very glad you're here. And I give the floor to you and our guest of honor.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the introduction. The poem gave me goosebumps. So thank you for that as well. So now it's my pleasure to introduce our special guest for today, Boris Raonic. Boris Raonic is the General Director of the broadcaster RTCG, which is the NRK of Montenegro. He has been in Norway several times. When I asked you when you arrived, if it was your first time, you said, no, I've been here 30 times at least. And the reason for that is that you have had very close ties to Norway, because before you became the general director of RTCG, you were the head of a political science school Is that right?
Yes.
And you brought a lot of people from Montenegro here to Norway to study the Norwegian system and how it works. But today, we will talk about a very special assignment that you now have. 1 year ago, more or less, you took over the broadcaster, the NRK of Montenegro. And up until a year ago, it has been had been politically controlled, and your job was to turn it around to be a free broadcaster, a channel of free press. So first of all, before we go into the context and learn a little bit more about Montenegro, tell us what met you on the first day of your new job.
On the first day of my new job, I met a very extensive group of people who created cabinet of general director. It was a group of the people of more than 20 people. Right now there are 4, who was more or less doing nothing. So many advisors, so many deputies, so many analysts, so many people who was receiving the salaries from the taxpayers for not doing enough for those things. I met people who was on sick leaves for 16 years. So this was the way to just get the finances for the family, but without doing anything for counterpart for their job. I find a technological undeveloped system without strategy, without bylaws. So
it sounds
I was
like
afraid.
a very difficult job.
I was afraid. I must be honest. I was afraid in first days. It was not so easy job.
But I'm sure you didn't expect it to be very easy either.
No, because I'm working in transitional issues in Montenegro for decades, and I was following public service from previous position, but I was also doing a lot with human rights organization, journalistic organization, different institutions, and from the point of view of the watchdog or civil society activists, I knew the problems. And I had ideas how to change those wrong things, but then when you come into system, when you start working, it's a totally different. And this is what I see on so many levels right now in Montenegro. So being outside, being the watcher, and being a player on the ground, it's totally different.
It's easier to criticize than to actually to clean up.
Yes.
Okay, so we will talk a bit more about your job there, but it was quite a large organization. I think you said 800 people were working there.
It's in Montenegrin size big organization. It's the second biggest company in Montenegro, which is a small country, but according to the other standards, we are not one of the biggest public services, of course, but in Montenegro we are the second biggest company.
Okay, so to understand a little bit better what this huge job, you now have 3 more years to do, because your job is for 4 years at least for...
Yes, and with possibility for another mandate.
Right. But since, not to offend you, but I think a lot of Norwegians are not very well educated when it comes to Montenegro. So I think we need a little bit of context to understand what your job, why it's so challenging. First of all, Montenegro is one of Europe's youngest country, not the youngest, but one of Europe's youngest country, gained independence in 2006, peacefully, in contrary to some other former countries in the former Yugoslavia. But tell us a little bit about the context of, it's still a polarized country. What are the biggest conflict lines that you are maneuvering in Montenegro?
Montenegro is, yes, of course, very small country, but it's very interested for probably Norwegians, because we are the last country in Europe who has experienced the change over the government on elections. Even Vatican or Belarus changed the government elections. So we after 160 years of parliamentarism in Montenegro, we 2 years ago did it on elections. So this was a dramatical change for Montenegro. Why? Because from the Second World War, we have the same party who was ruling Montenegro until 2 years ago. They just changed the name after the fall of Berlin Wall in the 90s. They just changed the name, but the same political party, ex-communistic party, continued to work and to have a power over everything, over the media, over the judiciary. And this is not my perception. This is something that you can read in European Commission reports, in Freedom House reports, in so many international organizations or NGOs. And then 2 years ago, we had a chance to start working on institutional building. So why it's so challenging? Because for decades, the system organized the way into the interest of one political party. So based on just not even one political party, but elites of one political party, everything was organized. So that's why with so huge control, put it on one place over anything, over the not only medias, over university, over the culture, sports, all parts of human life. It was like that. And then 2 years ago, we felt possibility to do something. In some areas, we succeeded after 2 years, based on neutral findings of different international organizations. In some of these, we did it. So basically, this kind of system is made and controlled by 3 pillars: security, finances, and medias. And this one that I right now working in is one of the big pillar over the control by party over all state, even if you can say state, because state means strong institutions and everything. So do we have state where we don't have strong institutions? So this is atmosphere where we start working. We in public service, public media service, but also in some other institutions. And then because of different reasons, someone did a little bit more or less, but right now we as a society are having the chance to go further in developing over all parts of human life.
So with this very strong political control over so many years, how did it affect the media?
How did it affect media? We had media who was controlled by the state, by the party, or those who was in problems. Which kind of problems? Financial problems, problems with licenses. We have murders of journalists, still uninvestigated. We still don't know who killed the editor of the biggest newspaper in Montenegro. We had so many cases of the physical violence over or destroying of the property of private medias. So this was far away from the European standards atmosphere for the function of media. Then we had something that was neoliberal concept of legislation. Then whole country or system tried to pretend that they are on European path through drafting legislation which is according to the European standard. But when you have in small society so many medias who are dependent on the financial or state resources, then you are easily to be controlled. So it was really smart way. So it was not the control that you see in some other totalitarian countries, but with a neoliberal concept of establishing medias, with so many medias who don't have resources, who don't have enough staff, who don't have enough journalists, who don't have educated journalists. then they are naturally very, very dependent on the financial resources or through states, and then it's easy to manipulate. So in that kind of system of media, and then with new technological development, and then having the so many information resources through other fake news portals or social medias or whatever, then we have problem for whole society. Where are they going to be informed? So you don't have professional public service. You don't have. You have very weak commercial medias. You have unregulated system for portals, and then you have so many fake news through social medias. In that kind of atmosphere, it's easy to do whatever stronger decision makers would like to do, depending on just name it, on political issues, on economical issues, on cultural issues, on manipulation over division. You ask about divisions. In Balkans, we get used to have one division line which makes strong, or even worse. You saw 90s and even 20s. In Montenegro, it's maybe strange to say we are lucky because we have so many divisions. Of course, biggest divisions are those that we had in referendum for independence. Are you pro-union or pro-independence? But then we have strong ethnical divisions, strong religious divisions.
Just to stop you there, because I read that when you have the referendum, it was 55.5%
Yes.
who voted yes to the independent state of Montenegro. But then you're still left with almost half of the people not wanting independence. And when I read that number, I thought, this is the context you are operating in.
Yes.
And it must be difficult. So if you can you explain a bit more about the largest conflict lines, like the ethnic and religious, just for the Norwegian who's listening to have the context.
So yes, Montenegro is a very small country, but it's a unique
650,000 people.
But on that small territory with so small population, you have three civilizations who are meeting. So you have Islamic culture or civilization, you have Orthodox, and you have Catholic. And there we are meeting on the so small territory with almost easily line between the villages who are belonging to this or that. And then if you combine this with these referendum divisions, pro or against independence, or ethnical divisions, then it makes very complicated to understand. It's not black and white like in some other countries in Balkans. So it's a little bit complicated country, and probably this is the reason why we didn't have violent conflict like in Bosnia and Croatia, because there was so many divisions lines on which we could be on the same side in one moment, but in another moment in another side. And then when you transfer it to the politics, to the decision-making process, then people are very emotional. Ethnical distance in Montenegro is growing, which is strange. Usually after the wars, after the years or decades, those things are disappearing. In Montenegro, according to research, ethnical distance is growing. We still have very strong these political divisions, pro or against independence, and even on elections, on local elections, you have this issue. State status issue on local elections, and this creates one atmosphere where it's very hard to discuss about all of those things that is probably right now in the trend in Norway.
But then I'm very curious because as a state broadcaster, RTCG, how do you operate? How do you maneuver in this landscape of so many conflict lines? Do people feel that RTCG is serving everyone, or do even you have a side, or how do you operate in this? I mean, for example, in Norway, NRK it was founded in 1933, and it was very important for nation building and the sense of unity. Of course, it was in a very different time with less competition from streaming and all the other type of media. But how, as a medium of unity, how is RTCG functioning, or is it doing the opposite? Is it dividing?
No, this is one thing that we are proud. Almost on the first day of our work, we created balance in the reporting, and this is something that is recognized widely in reports of European Commission, in different NGOs or whatever. So we are trying, and I think we are on good track to be public service for everyone. And public opinion polls are showing that we are on good track, that we are gaining trust and respect. In crisis situation, people are watching us. The number of viewers are really good one, because we had very, very bad situation in trust in number of viewers 2 years ago. So right now we are with those concrete figures that can be measured very good. But probably this is not enough. This is just basic thing. Balanced reporting is basic thing, and doing on common values standard. But right now we have to go much further, because we spent so many years or decades in some other things. So right now we have to run to achieve the standards
But how did it used to be then? Because since this RTCG was used for political, can I say propaganda?
Yes.
Was it right?
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't want to say it if you didn't agree. But still people support RTCG now, although it's until quite recently had a bias.
We are small society, and when the ordinary people see some other people joining me and myself and some other editors, people that they trust, then they start to watch, to follow more. And then when we calculate the according to public opinion, how many trust we have comparing to other commercial medias, or how many people are watching on cable us, then we have very good figures. But it's really not the thing that we can do it overnight, because reading some novelist or following some media is also part of the habit. So if you listen one music, if you listen jazz, you will hardly transfer to some other music. So we are fighting with habits, not only with habits of the citizens, but also over the habits of new generation, because this is a huge problem in Europe. How many people are following traditional medias? Linear media is a little bit disappearing. Trends in following linear media, and we are part of it. And then we have to give the answer on which in Norway, in Finland, in some other countries gave the 20 years ago. Are we going to be beaten by YouTube, by Spotify, or are we going to have the reason to exist by approaching whole society? This is a technological issue. You ask about sociological or political reasons. So right now we have to prove to the society that there is reason for us even to function. And the reason is, if we answer on this political, sociological, if we become real public service who is offering information for whole nation, but also if we give the answer for this technological answers with development of on-demand TVs, OTTs, online answers, and we are late. Nobody did anything before it. So it is one fight on so many fields.
You will not be out of work for quite a while. But I also read some interesting fact that Montenegro actually, on the Press Freedom Index, you went from place 104 till 63 in 1 year.
Yes.
I mean, it's a huge jump. Right,
yes.
on the right way. Can you explain this number? How is it? Is it because of you?
This is the hard answer, because of course I had to mention public service, because in any society, when you analyze medias, you come from the public service, and then you analyze all situation in legislation, in commercial medias, financing medias, attacks on medias, representatives, and whole system. After the public service, of course, become from the moment of the something that the European Commission said, party controlled TV, to the very public service who is following diversity of society and have equal representation of all parts of society, to the Press Freedom Index of Reporters Sans Frontières, for example, in this case, or some other institution, Freedom House, or so many others. Of course, it's a good signal for whole state and for whole society, but I'm not satisfied. We are living in continent with 50 plus countries, and we are still in the world index in 64th. So this is far away from what we had.
But the number look quite amazing. I mean, from 104 to
Yes.
63, it's good news.
Yes, but we are in heart of Europe. We are heart of Europe, and we are not country without tradition. You said that we are recently get independence, but Montenegro was one of the oldest country in the world. We had one kind of country in the 10th of century. We are celebrating 1,000 year of statehood, a country.
You feel you should be in a better place.
We should be, for example, I'm very, very, very inspired by one Norwegian who came in Montenegro more than 120 years ago. His name is Henrik August Angel, and he came to see what motivates Montenegrins to fight for independence in the moment when Norway wanted to get independence from Sweden. So Montenegro was even in the history inspiration for some, and he wrote 4 books on Norwegian language, and maybe it could be interesting for people here. Probably majority of people here know it. He wrote 4 books about Montenegro and about this atmosphere under the big pressure in the moment where Ottoman Empire, Turkey controlled whole Balkan. There was only one small spot on the map who had some kind of independence, and even Norwegians 120 years ago was looking for some inspiration in Norway. So in one moment, of course, history is not linear. So Norway, of course, and some other countries, we see what is happening in Europe, development of nations. And I was discussing with friends these days in Oslo. I see some even negative trends even in Norway. So development or social development in any country, in freedom of expression, in cultural level, in economical development, it's full of ups and downs. So that's why I'm not satisfied, because I think we can be much better, and there is no reason for this, because we are small country with so many resources.
And when we talked on the phone before you came here, you mentioned that although this is kind of good news, although you're not satisfied, I get, but the problems that prevail are self-censorship, you mentioned,
yes,
amongst journalists, yes, and editors, and also unresolved killings of journalists.
Yes.
Can you say something about this situation, especially about the self-censorship, because it's interesting, and I know also here in Norway this is a huge debate, but you said something interesting on the phone. You said something like, I don't think people are, they haven't gotten used to being able to speak freely yet, you said.
Yes.
And I thought that was interesting. Can you explain?
I think that people from different areas of science should analyze this. But if you see the movie and someone who is in the jail for so many years, when he go outside, he is not sure what he's going to do, what is reason for living, or what was his goal, or whatever. So if you have atmosphere of one institution like ours, who is for almost 7 decades functioning, and through whole history it is controlled by the system, not party. Party is part of the system, and then in one moment you open the door, you have oxygen in it, and then it needs sometimes to understand what are the standards, what are the reasons for being journalists of public service or whatever. And then in that kind of atmosphere, ordinary people who are still afraid, who was working there, who was part of the system, and giving them right now, it's up to you. How are you going to put the news, or to select the guest or whatever? it's not an easy job.
And this is your experience coming into RTCG.
This is what I see on every day, on everyday basis. According to law, I don't have right to influence on the program.
You have to remind them that they can actually
and then when they ask
want.
me, I say in 90%. Otherwise, only if I can have advice over some guest or whatever they don't know. But it's everyday struggle to understand that it's up to them, and it's a really basic and maybe for someone funny. But this is it, and this is something that we experience right now as a serious problem, not only in Montenegro. It's a negative trend that we are right now having in European countries, in serious countries with serious press freedom index. We have right now in these years, last couple of years. That's why I said that history is and development is not. We have serious problem right now in Spain, in Slovenia, in Poland, in Hungary, in Croatia, in so many countries. In Italy, we have right-wing government who is recently elected. According to law, director of editor of public service in Italy can be directly chosen by government. In Norway, I saw the article that NRK is not happy with budget for next year, and they are discussing this with Ministry of Finance. Just this tool create possibility for decision makers in the government to influence the media. Of course, level of political culture in Norway is on the same level that any kind of interfering.
But the vulnerability is still there.
There is possibility for vulnerability if there is no solid, firstly, legislation and another political culture and consciousness of the people. Luckily, you have consciousness of the people, but obviously you don't have good legislation. According to our legislation, government cannot influence our budget. It's defined by 0.3 of GDP, and the board who is elected me, they don't have any kind of political influence. It's a paper from university, from Olympic Committee, from Chamber of Commerce, from NGOs. They're representing whole society. In Italy, they are directly chosen by the government, and this is a problem. In Norway, this is a problem. In Spain, in Slovenia, journalists are protesting in front of their public services because they are having political pressure. And we are speaking about countries with serious tradition. In Visegrad countries, it's a huge issue. So if there is threat towards public services and their position in whole Europe, then we can imagine which kind of problems are in local medias, in commercial medias, in I don't want to mention some web portals or social media. So it's a really big European problem how to have a solid information to the citizen, especially in these times. Not only Ukrainian times, but also some other. We can name some financial or COVID or some other crises that are happening all over, and then if you don't have a solid ground for a strong, independent public service medias, who can be for 100% sure that it won't be violated those trust by the citizens, then how can ordinary people? But was that a
criticism for the way NRK is? I'm sorry.
Don't worry.
NRK is financed?
Yes, of course.
Because you actually have what did you say? 3%?
0.3% of GDP. So
and in Norway we don't have that fixed.
So if government have a way to influence a financial situation,
they have a lot of power.
Then they can say in one moment, I don't like your reporting or whatever. I can decrease your cost budget for next year, and then there is this. There was intentions to change this law in Montenegro also, but luckily it was so strong. Atmosphere was, and we had big support by also European partners, and then politicians stopped with that idea, because if you control, of course, with finance or way to choose editorials or managers in public service or some other independent institution, not only media but cultural institution or regulatory agencies or whatever, then through years it is easy.
We have something to learn from you.
There is no way that even smallest or weakest developing in democracy or press freedom or whatever country that they cannot learn those on the top of the list like Scandinavian countries. Yes, for us, for our strategy, for our organization in RTCG, we are right now using the models of ILO in Finland, in Iceland, in NRK. In so many things, but there are of course things that I really believe that we are doing better, and then this interconnection between us it's not connection but interconnection is a crucial one, and I think that something that we had in European countries, that arrogancy in Visegrad countries is right now is going to be paid. Because situation there with in Poland, in Hungary, in some other countries, right now is dramatical because they was sure that okay, we have a velvet revolution, we have a transition, we are right now members of EU, we have good, but in one moment the situation with media went down, and it's something that is. But
the 0.3% is actually in the constitution. You said
according to law. According to law. So
and they cannot change it unless they change the law.
Yes, they can change the law, but there was intention to change the law. But right now there is no political figures who can have majority in the parliament. But also presence of international right now. Internationals are right now pressuring this. So right now it's in strategy, it's in law, and then having the idea to change those, then it's a big, not only Montenegrin problem, but it's becoming a European problem.
So I just wanted to give the audience a little bit of context, because we talk about a lot about RTCG, but I also read, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Montenegro, despite being quite a small nation with 650,000 inhabitants, I read has more than 150 registered media outlets.
I think even more.
Even more.
I think even more. Yes. Yes.
And it said that's including the 3 dailies, 4 TV broadcasters with national frequency.
Now 5. A few days ago.
A few days ago 5. Good. You're more updated than me. And one of them is then RTCG, and 1 press agency. It's a lot. Is it a good thing, or is it fragmenting the?
This is what I discussed a little bit earlier, because if you say it like this, okay, it's a huge number of medias, people can choose, people can select, but if all of them are competing for one financial cake which is too small for survival, or 1 or 2 TVs, then it means that they are all dependent on some other resources. What does it mean in practice? We have right now public service and 5 commercial TVs with national coverage, which is the same number of the TVs national coverage in Croatia and Serbia together. Serbia and Croatia together are 20 times or 15 times bigger than Montenegro, which means that they are not sustainable medias, and they are present into Montenegro because of something else, not commercial media, because they cannot make a profit, and because of dysfunctioning. So they have political reasons to be there. So all the other TVs are owned by companies from Serbia, and we have history of relations with Serbia that we of course discussed. So if there is 2 TVs controlled by one part of political spectrum in Serbia, and then 2 TVs from another political spectrum in Serbia, then it means that of course they have something else than commercial or altruistic reason to functioning. And then for us it's important that content that they're having for free, because they're part of the biggest consortiums in the region, and whatever they have in movies, sport rights, documentaries, they're not paying for it. And this is another problem, which is very hard to understand from this context, Norwegian context or whatever. But imagine if you have right now 10 years ago, violent conflict in the Scandinavia. If you have in Scandinavia breakdown of the countries in last 15 years, if you have violent conflict, if you have war crimes, if you have political disputes between the countries, and then if you have from one of those countries big presence in Norway or in Denmark,
it sounds very problematic.
It's a very strange
and just
situation.
to put it in context, the greater Oslo area has about 500,000 people, so it would be like 150 media outlets just here in this
I think
area.
With portals, with some locals or some who are not functioning from time to time, it's I think even double.
Okay, so we have a few minutes left to talk, and these days you can not talk about anything without talking about Russia. So we have to talk about Russia a little bit before we open up for questions. So there is, we talked about some of the conflict lines already in Montenegro, and one conflict line is also leaning east or leaning west.
Yes.
You became part of NATO in 2017, but also you mentioned when we talked before that there's still a lot of people opposing this membership. And now, with the new situation, with the Russian invasion in Ukraine, how is this affecting your job in RTCG and the media and press in general? I mean, I read about Russian cyber attacks. The United States have sent FBI in to try to sort out if it was Russian. It seems like you have a huge East-West conflict.
Yes.
That you are, I guess, in the middle of as
Yes.
General Director of RTCG.
If you see this geostrategic line right now, always and even now, it was through the territory where right now Montenegro is. Through the history we had, you're right, fight, are we going to be oriented toward east or west? Our royal families...
A little bit like Ukraine then.
I think even more. We have royal family disputes between those who was pro-Russian or pro-Venice, for example. We had it, whole history of us. More problematic here is that we have religious ties, and we have through the history of old Montenegro before the 200 years or 300 years ago, we have financial support by Russian state because we was very poor and very, very problematic to survive in the Ottoman or Turkish occupation over the Balkans. So through these reasons, we established something that is not rational, of course, it is emotional connections, and then fighting on the political level between people on this emotional level is very serious problem. So many people right now are feeling emotional ties with Russia, and then when you on everyday life try to organize your position, then it's hard to survive this rational part of it. So that's why we have probably now 50-50 situation within Montenegro over this situation. This is not issue over because everybody is aware, hopefully, what is happening there, which kind of war is there, but they're finding the excuse for this, and then getting information in program and finding the appropriate explanation for the citizens. It's very hard in that kind of atmosphere. We was victim of fake news. Our journalists on web portal was not checking about some things that they got from some web portal from some surrounding country, and then they make the international incident. Immediately, the Ukrainian embassy said this is not true, blah, blah, blah, blah, and then we had to excuse. So on everyday basis, we have these fake news problems. We have emotional problem because people will say, okay, you're always saying that they destroyed this town. Why don't you say that Ukrainians did this? And then therefore calling, sending emails or whatever. We have problem with educating people to follow on fact checking or some other levels or getting appropriate information. But even when we send journalists in Ukraine, this is not enough, because we can send them for a couple of days, and every day things are happening. So it's a really.
But are you then accused of leaning RTCG? Are you accused of leaning west then? Or
vice versa. When we don't put CNN kind of report, then okay, you're
right.
trying to find excuse, blah blah blah blah. So we had plenty of course accusations that we are pro Ukrainian or whatever, but this is right now not issue anymore. We are one of the one who did in the public service level the biggest number of support according to our size. We had so many concerts, special shows, whatever we find just to show on these civilizational disputes where we are. But even there, it's not black or white, so we have to put some information which is not popular in some surrounding. And as I said, it's an emotional problem. It's not issue like it could be presented in Ireland or in England. In this kind of society, with close historical, religious, even personal ties, then it's a not easy job to see and present reality as it could be in Denmark.
So let me end this conversation by asking you, in this context, your position as the general director of RTCG, are you safe in this position, or are you exposed to any sort of threats, or, I mean, do you have any enemies?
Very much. I have enemies a lot, but I was expecting this. I have enemies for those people who don't work. We have working habits a lot internally. Myself and my kid was attacked on football match because of some I don't know, statements that we had in our program, and then I'm on the top management, and then fans of one club, probably inspired by some political groups, organized something, but it's right now in court process. But this is the way.
This is serious. I mean.
Yes. For I'm grown up, so for me it's not too much. But for the kid who is 8 years old and experiencing violence in some huge crowd, this is I cannot imagine more serious thing than these kind of things, and this is the way how it is. We are not speaking about writing the beautiful books or poems. We are speaking about fighting for free speech, and it is not easy job. I said people was killed. Editor of biggest newspaper is killed, and we still don't know who killed him. And there are tens of the people who are journalists in Montenegro who are beaten. Majority of those cases is still not solved. So it's a job of those who have a path.
Still a long way to go. Okay, so we will open up for questions from the audience, if you have. And please use the opportunity. It's not often that we have guests from Montenegro here. We have a microphone, I see. So if anyone wants to raise their hands, please feel welcome. Yeah, I can see one hand over there.
Sven Mønnesland, University of Oslo. I would like to return to what you said about Russia. Are there any media, I mean major media in Montenegro that are clearly pro-Russian, like, let's say, Politica in Serbia?
Yes, web portals. There are plenty of them, and few of them are on the one of the most visited web portals. And we have one TV owned by a Serbian company who is very close to those positions. Yes.
Ingrid?
Boris, you mentioned political culture, and I wonder, I mean, and you were asked, are you safe in your position? But are you also safe from political changes? If there's a change of government, we know that in many countries in the region, you will be losing your job if you not have the right party affiliation. What is your situation here?
Luckily, influence of international community in Montenegro is big. So there was intention to change the law and to bring there the friends. So it was stopped almost on the same day when this information was there. Another luck is that right now in Montenegro we don't have power who is more than 30%. So even if there is someone who don't like something, that they cannot raise this more than 50% of votes. Even with those political groups or lists, they are not those who can easily right now raise a hand to change the leadership of public service because of results that we had in last year. And also right now majority of political scene is very happy. Even those who lost their position, they are smaller coalition members, minority parties, and some other who are very happy because minorities was until now with this ruling party that was for decades ruling in Montenegro, but there was underrepresented in public service. So we made the changes related to the minority representation, minority languages, and so right now they're happy. So there are so many people who are happy, and those who are unhappy, I right now perceive them as extremist group, and we are right now the only media that already come. So there are other medias that some are boycotting. Some political parties, they don't go on this TV. So we are probably the only one who gained the people from all political spectrum. And that in that kind of atmosphere, probably they have other things to do than to make some changes in public service.
Any more questions? Yes?
Hi, Boris. Thank you for an interesting talk. I was just curious about these foreign media companies that work inside Montenegro. Do they, I mean, maybe this is normal, I don't know, but do they, how is the language difference between in Montenegro and Serbia? Do they hire Montenegrin journalists? Because that might mean that, I mean, I guess it's not, I guess it's a hard competition for the good journalists. Yes. And also, is it state-funded in some way? Is it connected to the state? Is the Serbian companies in particular very well equipped, or and why are they there? I mean, could you say a little bit more about the role in the region?
Based on this language issue, probably Professor can explain more. We have same language: Croatia, Serbia, Bosnia, and Montenegro. It's the same language. Just after the split of ex-Yugoslavia, we named the languages according to our nations. So this is not an issue. Most of the titles that we have in movies, for example, right now are done in Belgrade with some slight difference between Serbian and Montenegrin language. I don't want to go into the details, but they get all of those for free, and we are having to pay it. We have one TV station, Pinkham, who is right now getting about 40% of marketing, and they have only 2 employees. 2 other TVs, they are obviously because of political reasons, because they are supporting political option that is closer to the country where they are coming from. So they are having support by establishment in the surrounding country of us, and they are having huge support by different state companies in Serbia, but also in some other sport rights or movies, serial program, or whatever. And then in that kind of atmosphere, they get greatest movies, shows, and then if you raise the number of viewers, if you break it with short news with 5 minutes, then in those 5 minutes you can put on agenda whatever you would like. So this is easy and not so smart invention, but it's a function.
Anyone else who wants to use the opportunity? Yes? Question?
Thank you for a very interesting conversation. I have a question. You're a young country, but Norway is not very old either. And when Norway got independent, the poets, the writers, the artists were rather important to sort of try to express what Norway was as an independent country. What is the situation for the artists and the poets and the writers in Montenegro, and the relationship with your public service channel? Do you use them? Do they get room? Do they get space? Do you make programs? How do they develop the Montenegrin spirit, so to say, if there is a Montenegrin spirit?
Yes, right now, we cannot have the same spirit like it was established in Norway when Norway gained independence, because it was huge majority of the people who supported that idea. As you said, in Montenegro we have 50-50 situation, so we have to find something that unifies us. And like in all aspects of life, even cultural workers was very divided. We have two associations of journalists in this division line. We have two associations of novelists. We have those associations. We have two associations of fire workers, believe it or not, in some towns. So we have a strong division even on cultural level. Those who feel strong identity of Montenegro, and those who think that we are part of some bigger regional identities in Montenegro. And then when you have to think about cultural workers who are thinking about those statehood position and then organizing themselves in this level, it's really sad. Because then you have medias who are pro this or pro that, and then they're having in the program only those who are closer to their identity. And then it's confusing for ordinary people who would like just to enjoy in music or in books. Is this guy good or bad? Or do they do something? Did they wrote or did they have a concert? Because I don't know, because he's on the other side. Maybe I'm overreacting, but it's not far away from the truth. So if it's a very divided, and right now in our cultural program we have people who belong to the one part of 50% of Montenegro, and right now explaining them that they should bring the others on the quality level, not just because of their pro this or pro that. It's a really tough job. So we have to do this on cultural level. So imagine you have 5 books here, and then this guy wrote, he is pro this or pro that. He will be in this TV or he'll be in this TV. So it's really sad. Of course, we can be divided on ideological, political things, but if it go to this culture or sports or we have, I said, we have in some towns two fire workers association based on this division lines.
Last chance to ask a question. If not, we will close this conversation. Thank you so much, Boris Raonic, for joining us today. And I see now that you will get a present if you turn your head. Well deserved. I hope you enjoy Norway, although it rains. Yes. But since you've been there 30 times, I guess you're used to that as well.
Yes, Norway for me is the inspiration, and really thank you for the invitation.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you all for being here, and for all of you who's watching from home as well.
Just on behalf of PEN Norway, this is the last poetry collection of Ilham Shumak from Turkey. I hope you will enjoy it. It's very positive, and I hear that you really have to balance your life. This is a man who can really know something about balance. And Anna, thank you so much for monitoring this conversation. Rabalder, that is the story of Norwegian PEN, or PEN Norway. I always say Norwegian PEN, but PEN Norway, and how the freedom of expression has been developing in Norway. And it's nice to read, because there are so many cases that we should not be proud of. And it reminds us all that freedom of expression is never won. I mean, it's something we have to fight for every day. So, thank you.